everything shifted one evening when I opened the hall closet to grab a blanket for the couch. It was the peak of a heat wave in the city, but our apartment was icy cold because Sarah loved sleeping in near-freezing conditions. We'd had a petty argument that afternoon, same as always, this time over me forgetting to pick up groceries before the store closed. She'd stormed off to the bedroom, refusing to speak, a familiar tactic she used whenever things didn't go her way. I was used to her silent punishments by now, so I let it slide. I grabbed a beer, queued up an episode of a historical drama, and sprawled on the couch, determined not to disturb her. When I opened the closet, a shoebox tumbled onto my feet. It was from a pair of sneakers I'd gifted her months ago, but it felt heavier than an empty box should. Without much thought, just curiosity, I opened it. Inside was a small cloth bag with makeup, an unopened pack of condoms, and a set of keys I didn't recognize. I'm not one to snoop, never have been, but something about that moment hit me like a jolt. I froze for a moment, listening to the stillness of the apartment, as if I needed to confirm I was truly alone before digging further. I grabbed her purse, hanging by the front door, and opened it with a mix of guilt and urgency. I found her phone, locked as usual. But after a decade together, you pick up more passcodes than you realize. I tried our anniversary date, and it unlocked on the first try. I went straight to her messaging apps, nothing suspicious there. Social media, clean. Then I opened her photo gallery, and that's when my world started to crumble. There were screenshots of conversations that weren't in her regular chats, saved under names like Emma T. or Mark V. But the tone made it clear these weren't Emma or Mark. The messages were too personal, too intimate, sometimes explicit. One screenshot stopped me cold. "Are you wearing that little black dress to the office tomorrow? It drives me wild." Her reply, "Only if you promise to repeat what we did in the elevator." It didn't take a detective to figure out my wife wasn't just flirting. She was meeting someone in person. The chat's background showed an office setting, and Sarah worked as an administrative assistant at a tax consulting firm downtown, with a fixed schedule and few opportunities to slip away. Or so I'd thought. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, sank onto the couch, and tried to process, but my mind wouldn't cooperate. My chest ached, not metaphorically, but physically, like something was crushing me from the inside. I glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. Sarah was still in the bedroom, probably sleeping soundly, as if she wasn't shattering my life. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, the TV muted, its flickering light just enough to keep my thoughts at bay, though they crept in anyway. Every word, every image from that phone replayed in my head like a self-inflicted torture loop. At 7 a.m., when I heard the bathroom door creak open, I bolted upright, turned off the TV, and started making coffee, pretending it was just another day. Sarah shuffled into the kitchen, her hair in a messy bun that used to make me smile. "Didn't sleep in bed?" she asked, pulling a yogurt from the fridge. "Too warm," I mumbled, avoiding her gaze. She didn't press, just sat at the table, scrolling her phone like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't hiding the ruins of our life in that device. I watched her every move, torn between anger and disbelief, as if she were a stranger pretending to be my wife. For 2 days, we played this game. I acted clueless, she acted normal. But every glance at her tightened the knot in my stomach. On Sunday night, while she showered, I made a decision. She'd mentioned staying late at the office the next day for a meeting with a German client. Not unusual. But I no longer believed a word she said. I set up an app on my phone to track hers in real time. Something I tested once when our dog, Rusty, got lost in a park. I never imagined I'd use it to follow my wife. Monday, I barely functioned at work, answering emails and faking long calls while my mind fixated on one thing. At 6:07 p.m., the app showed Sarah wasn't at her office. She wasn't heading home either, her location pinned to a neighborhood miles from her usual haunts. By 6:24, she stopped at an office building I didn't recognize. I waited 10 minutes, then left work without a word. I reached the area just before 7, parked 2 streets away, and walked to the building. The buzzers had no names, just numbers. I stood across the street, pretending to check my phone, watching the entrance. At 7:12, she emerged, not alone. A man, older than me, in a sharp gray blazer and polished shoes, walked beside her. They didn't touch, but their ease with each other was unmistakable, like they'd been doing this for years. They paused outside a bar around the corner, talked briefly, and he rested his hand on her waist before they went inside. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I wandered aimlessly for over an hour, replaying every lie Sarah had told me without me noticing. When I got home, she was already there, showered and in loungewear. "How was the meeting?" I asked, surprised by my own calm. "Exhausting," she replied without missing a beat. "That German guy never shuts up." I swallowed the urge to confront her then and there. I needed proof, undeniable, documented proof. The next day, I tracked her again. This time, they left the building holding hands. On the 3rd day, he kissed her goodbye, quick, discreet, but a kiss. By Thursday, after watching her enter that building for the 4th time, I walked up and pressed the buzzer I'd memorized. A man's voice answered, "Yes." I paused, then said, "I'm Sarah's husband. I'm downstairs." Silence. The door didn't buzz. He didn't speak again. I waited 5 minutes, then left. At home, Sarah was off, nervous. She asked twice if I wanted dinner, which she never did. "Not hungry," I said, eyes on my laptop. She didn't push, retreating to the bedroom. Later, I saw her shadow in the hallway, whispering on the phone in the bathroom. When she noticed me, she hung up and emerged with a forced smile. It was Mom. "She wants us to come for dinner this weekend." I nodded, saying nothing. She went to bed, and I stayed up, another night stewing in the lie that was our life. I couldn't wait any longer. That night, I dusted off our old compact camera, the one with a decent zoom we used before smartphones took over. I checked the battery, the memory card, the date and time, and tested it with a photo of Rusty in the kitchen. The next day, I took the afternoon off work, citing a family emergency. My boss, a no-nonsense guy, didn't pry as long as I got my work done. I ate lunch alone, triple-checking the address of that building. I staked out the entrance, dressed in a plain hoodie and cheap sunglasses, the camera around my neck like some amateur photographer or tourist. I waited over an hour, but they appeared. He exited first, same polished demeanor. Then Sarah, laughing as she adjusted her purse. They walked together, not too close, but comfortable. I didn't move, just aimed and shot 5 photos, slow and steady, unnoticed. I tailed them at a distance as they entered a small cafe, the kind where everyone's too busy with laptops or phones to care. I took a seat near the window, my back shielding me, and watched them talk, laugh, brush hands a few times. No kisses, no long embraces, but the connection was obvious. When they left, I snapped 3 more photos before slipping away. Back home, I transferred the images to my laptop, naming and dating them. Some were blurry, but several were crystal clear. Sarah with another man, touching his hand, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. I had all the evidence I needed. I closed the laptop, sat in the kitchen, and waited. When Sarah got home, nothing seemed different. Same greeting, same routine with her keys, but I sensed it. Maybe it was her voice, or how she avoided my eyes. "Everything okay?" I asked as she put groceries in the fridge. "Yeah, just tired. Long day." I told her I'd finished work early and stayed home all afternoon. She didn't react or ask questions. We ate dinner watching the news. Then she showered and went to bed. I stayed at the dining table, staring at my laptop's blank screen. I wasn't sure if it was time, but I couldn't keep swallowing the truth. I walked into the bedroom, where she was already under the covers. I sat at the desk chair, silent at first. "Something wrong?" she asked, barely lifting her head. "Yeah, there is. I want to know who the guy is you're leaving that building with." Her face shifted, not shock, but a mix of fear and calculation. "What are you talking about?" she tried, but the act was weak. "I saw you, Sarah. I've got photos. Are you going to keep lying, or will you tell me the truth for once?" My voice stayed low, but it was sharp. She sat up, silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh, stalling. "It's not what you think," she finally said, as if that explained anything. "Then explain it," I shot back, unmoving. She hesitated. "His name's David. He works at a partner company. We met at a meeting a few months ago. It's not serious." I pressed her to be straight. "Not serious. So what? It's a game. You sleep with him for fun." She looked down. "I slept with him twice. It was recent. I didn't plan it. I felt alone." You were always so distant, like you didn't even notice me. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. That's your excuse. I was distant, so you act like you're single. That justifies lying to my face every day. She shook her head, voice shaky. I'm not justifying it. I'm trying to explain how we got here. No, Sarah, I cut in. You're trying to make this sound less ugly than it is. You cheated not once, not in a moment of weakness. You lied every day for weeks, maybe months. You looked me in the eye and lied. She got out of bed, pacing barefoot like she was searching for an escape. I didn't want to hurt you. It got out of hand. I stood up. The only thing that got out of hand was your ability to hide it. You made every choice consciously, texting him, meeting him, touching him, laughing with him while I was buying groceries, walking the dog, or waiting at home, thinking I was still your husband. Don't say you didn't think it through. She covered her face with her hands, but I wasn't done. This doesn't fix with an apology, Sarah. We'll talk tomorrow, but don't expect us to pretend nothing happened. I barely slept, my mind racing like I'd been awake for days. At dawn, I called a lawyer I'd met years ago through a colleague's divorce. He answered quickly. I told him I wanted to start proceedings, that I had proof of infidelity, and wanted everything clear from the start. He asked about kids, shared assets, joint accounts. I gave him the details, sent the photos, emails, and messages I'd pulled from Sarah's phone. He said it was more than enough. Cases like this were straightforward if she didn't fight it. He could wrap it up in weeks. He asked for access to our home's notarized documents and tax returns, all of which I had stored online. Within an hour, he had everything he needed. Next, I drafted 2 emails, one to Sarah's boss, one to David's. I'd found their names in internal email chains on her phone. No insults, no threats, just a concise summary of the situation, with a zipped folder of evidence attached in case they cared to know how their employees spent work hours. I didn't care if it cost them their jobs. I wasn't out to ruin anyone, but I wasn't going to sit idly by while they played games with my trust. The emails were brief, professional, no apologies. I hit send and shut the laptop. Sarah was still in bed, maybe asleep, maybe pretending. I sat beside her and woke her. Get up. We need to talk. She blinked, disoriented, but the memory hit her fast. Her face showed it. She sat up, clutching the sheet like it could shield her. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm already doing it, I said. I spoke to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. I have enough proof to make sure this doesn't cost me the house or a dime. I also sent a report to your company and his. If they fire you, that's on them. I just told the truth. She stared at the floor, silent for a long time. No tears, no outburst. There's no other way, she said at last. No, I replied. It's the way you treated this, like you had the right to do it without consequences, like I didn't deserve a heads up, an explanation, anything. She whispered, I didn't want to destroy anything. You did, I said. Now you deal with your half of the mess. I'm moving on without you." We spent the day in silence. I ate on the balcony, she in the kitchen. No words until night. I'd packed some of my things and told her I'd stay at my cousin's place for the week while she found somewhere else or went to her parents'. She didn't argue. As I was leaving, she stopped me. "Can I say something before you go?" I nodded, not turning. "I know you won't believe me, but I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it for me." I felt empty, lost. I'm not justifying it, just saying it wasn't hate or boredom with you. It was me, not knowing what to do with myself. I faced her, voice steady. "That changes nothing. You could have talked. You could have been honest. Instead, you betrayed everything we had. I don't care if it was for you, him, or boredom. I don't trust you anymore, and without trust, there's nothing left." I closed the door without waiting for a reply. Outside, the heat was oppressive, but I felt cold inside. I drove to my cousin's. No music, no GPS, just the need to end this chapter. No relief, no sadness, just urgency for a clean break. A week later, I returned home. Sarah was still there, but signs of her leaving were clear. Boxes in the living room, folded clothes on the couch, missing photo frames, her coats gone from the closet. We hadn't spoken, save for one text from her saying she'd found a studio apartment and would move out by the weekend. I didn't reply, just saved the message. That night, she was in the kitchen, sipping tea in pajamas, her face blank. "Hi," she said. I echoed it and walked past, shutting the bedroom door. I was only back to grab more clothes and stay until she left. I didn't want to share silence with her any longer. But we didn't wait long. The next evening, she asked to talk. We sat in the living room, me watching the news, her folding shirts. She said she couldn't leave without speaking her mind. I told her to go ahead. Nothing would surprise me. She sat across from me, avoiding my eyes, and let it all out. "I know I ruined everything. I'm not here to make excuses or ask for anything. I just want you to know it wasn't because I didn't care. I love you, Michael, in my own messed up way. It wasn't hate or spite. It was desperation I couldn't handle. I felt invisible, not at home, but inside myself. I stayed calm, letting her continue. You were always steady, reliable, predictable. I mistook that for monotony. I thought I needed something else, so I looked for it outside, not seeing what I had here. I lied to myself, and by the time I wanted to stop, it was too late. He didn't matter, never did. He was just an excuse to feel alive, wanted, special. I know it makes no sense, but I needed to say it out loud. I responded evenly, no sarcasm, no theatrics. The worst part isn't what you did, it's how you did it. You didn't give me a chance to understand, to be there to talk. You chose a double life while I thought we were a team. You decided your emptiness was worth more than our trust. I can't forgive that, not because I hate you. I don't, but I don't know you anymore, and I can't stay with someone I don't recognize. She nodded, eyes glistening, but no tears. I deserve this. I brought it on myself. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry, not to fix things or go back. Just to say it myself, not leave you guessing. A heavy silence hung between us until I added, coldly but not cruelly, I just hope you don't do this to someone else. If you learned nothing from this, all this pain was for nothing. She stood, returned to the bedroom, and I didn't see her until the next morning, when she left with 2 suitcases, her laptop, and a backpack. No plea for help, no tearful goodbye, just, I'm going. And the door closed behind her. I sat in the same chair from our last talk, the TV droning on, unseen. It was hard to grasp that it was over, not with screams or drama, but a late conversation that fixed nothing. I didn't feel vindicated or free, just empty. That night, I called my brother, who invited me to dinner. I hadn't told him anything yet, but over tapas in a lively neighborhood, I spilled it all. He listened without interrupting or judging. When I finished, he said, "You didn't have to hold on so long. You knew from the start, but you didn't want to accept it was over." He was right. I'd sensed it for a while, but refused to believe something so ordinary could end so brutally. I got home at 11, opened a beer, took Rusty for a walk, and went to bed. It was the first night in ages I didn't dream of her or what I'd lost. I slept 8 hours straight and woke without dread. 3 weeks after Sarah left, the apartment felt different, even if it looked the same. I started cleaning deeply, almost instinctively tossing junk that had piled up for years, boxing photos for storage, dismantling the hall mirror she'd picked for its light. I bought a new coffee maker, not out of spite, but because I hated hers. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about making the space mine, not ours. Some days, getting up was hard, not from grief, but a vague emptiness I couldn't name. I didn't miss Sarah, but I missed the routine, the structure I'd thought was solid, now held together only by my effort. I stopped replying to mutual friends, not out of shame, but because I didn't want their opinions or pity. I only talked to my brother, who didn't push, and Rusty, who didn't need answers. One Saturday afternoon, the intercom buzzed. I wasn't expecting anyone. Downstairs, Sarah stood at the gate, no bags, no makeup, her expression unreadable. "I just need a few minutes," she said quietly. I hesitated, but let her in. We rode the elevator in silence. She stepped inside, glanced around like it was a stranger's home, and stayed by the door. "I'm not here to rehash the past," she began. "I'm not asking for another chance or trying to explain away what I did. I just wanted to tell you I signed everything and sent it to your lawyer. I'm not fighting over anything." I nodded, silent. She took a deep breath. "I've been going to therapy, not to feel better about what happened, but to figure out why I did it. I didn't expect you to listen, but I thought you deserved to know I'm trying." I leaned against the hallway doorframe, arms crossed. "I'm glad you're working on it, but I don't need explanations anymore. What happened is done. Whatever you figure out now is for you, not us. We stopped existing the day you hid that part of your life from me. She looked down. I know. I just wanted you to hear it. She turned to leave, then paused. Thanks for letting me in. I didn't think you would. I said nothing, closed the door, and sat on the couch. That night, I went out with work colleagues for the first time. One was celebrating a birthday, and though I'd always made excuses before, I said yes without overthinking. The bar was loud, crowded, dim lights, music I hadn't heard in years. I didn't feel out of place or fully part of it. I was just there, sipping slowly, answering briefly, letting time pass. Midway through, a coworker I barely knew, Lisa, sat beside me. She asked how I was, if I was settling down. Managing, I said. She didn't pry. We talked about work, movies, the heat, anything but my life. As we left, she touched my arm. Not everything has to make sense now. Sometimes you just let the days go by. I wasn't sure if it was advice or an observation, but I thanked her. That week, I slept better, hit the gym, shopped without passing her favorite aisles, read a whole book in 3 days, something I hadn't done since before we married. I cleared space in the closet, changed the sheets, got the leaky bathroom faucet fixed. Small wins, but mine. The last call with my lawyer confirmed the divorce's final date. Everything was set. It'd be official soon. Hanging up, I felt neither relief nor sorrow, just closed my phone and kept cooking dinner. One night, on the balcony with Rusty asleep at my feet, I reflected on it all. I wasn't defeated or bitter, but not hopeful either, just in a strange in-between, not knowing what phase was ending or beginning. I went inside, turned off the lights, and as I shut the bedroom door, I realized that was exactly what I needed. Quiet.